There's been a lot of media attention the last couple weeks. A whole lot of news coverage, a lot of focus, a lot of resources being deployed when it comes to the situation in Israel. And it's understandable given the nature of conflict and war and our 24/7 news cycle and the internet and the ability for us to see real time what's happening and going on in other places. Just like when the Ukraine war started, it was 24/7 coverage, constant. That war's been going on now for, I guess, approaching 2 years at this point. But we know that not all wars are created equal. Not all wars are covered equally. We know that there's been a civil war ongoing in Myanmar now for a few years. And how often do you see it on the national media, the national news coverage? Not very often. I received some sad news this week from a minister in Myanmar that one of the brothers in the church, an 80-year-old man, was shot and killed by the soldiers, and then his house was burned down with him in it. And his sons recovered the bones so that they could do a burial. That war has been ongoing for quite a while now, that civil war, but what do we care? What does our media care about it? What do we collectively care about it? So given the current media attention on Israel, it's understandable with the war and the situations going on, but before the war, Israel still has a lot of coverage, has a lot of focus, has a lot of discussion. For some reason, it always pops up in the media. A few years ago, Donald Trump said he was going to move the U.S. Embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. And what an uproar that was. What an uproar it was. Why? There's always been chatter and discussion and debate about the situation between the Palestinians and the Israelis, about who has right to the land. But there's similar situations with ethnic groups all over the world. In Iraq, between the Sunnis and there's others in Africa, and currently in multiple countries in Africa, there's disputes between ethnic groups and disputes between people, but they don't get the same attention. They don't get the same coverage. They don't get the same notoriety. Why? And you've heard me say this before, but back in the Gulf War, for those who remember, when the U.S. was invading Iraq and walking into the country essentially unscathed, as they were being bombed by the U.S. and as they were being attacked by the U.S., they're finding it within themselves to shoot Scud missiles at Israel. Why they're being beaten and demolished. Why? Before Israel was recognized as a country, was recognized as a nation in 1948, Hitler and the regime had taken it upon themselves to try to exterminate the nation that didn't exist of Israel, the Jews. Why? The Russian invasion of Ukraine happened in February of 2022. President Biden visited Ukraine. Anybody know when? February of 2023. 1 year after that war started. Hamas attacked Israel on October 7, 2023, and President Biden visited Israel this week, October 18th. 11 days since the start, less than 2 weeks. Why? Why does Israel get so much attention? Why do they get so much focus? Is it because they're a huge country? Is it because their population is big? Is it because their economy is big? I mean, that from the practical sense, from the human logic sense, is why things matter, right? Why is the U.S. always interested when something happens in Iraq and Iran and Saudi Arabia and all those places? Why is it? Economics. It's about the money. It's about oil. It's about what drives the economy. North Korea, we're not really motivated to take action. Why? Not that big of a population, not that big of a country, not a big military threat, and economically, doesn't matter. So let's look just a little bit at comparing the country Israel to some other nations in the world. So Brother Joseph, he's got it up there already. Can you dim the lights there, Sister Miriam? So let's look at Israel in comparison to others as far as size of the country, square miles. So in all these slides, you'll see the top 5 nations, the top 5, then you'll see Israel, and then just for a little reference point, Myanmar, because we're familiar with what's going on there, Mexico, because it's a close neighbor of ours, Ukraine, again, because we know what's going on there. So how does, when you look at the actual sheer size of Israel, Russia is the largest, 6.6 million square miles. That's big geographically. It's huge geographically. Some music. United States, pretty big, the 4th biggest country in the world, 3.677 million square miles. Israel is number 150 out of about 195 countries in the world. Are they big? 8,000 square miles? 150? For another comparison, let's look at Texas. This is just Texas. 268,000 square miles. I'm not real fast at math, but 268,000 divided by 8,000 is about 33 countries of Israel could fit inside the state of Texas. So 33 Israels can fit into Texas. So is it the size of Israel? Number 150 out of 195? 8,000 square miles? No. Not that big. Well, maybe there's just a lot of people that live there. Go ahead, Joseph, next slide. So let's look at the population. Again, we have our top 5 up here. China, number 1 at 1.4 billion. India, number 2, 1.3 billion. U.S., big drop, 330 million. Down to Pakistan at number 5 at 220 million. Israel, number 100, 9 million people. 9 million people. Myanmar is a lot bigger. Mexico is a lot bigger. Ukraine's a lot bigger. Oh, wait, Texas? It's a lot bigger. A lot more people live in Texas than in the whole country of Israel. So it's not the size of the country. And again, think about this not from the biblical standpoint. Don't think about it from the scriptural standpoint, the spiritual standpoint. Think about it from the carnal standpoint. From the carnal standpoint, what drives the world? Population. From the carnal standpoint, what drives the world? Natural resources. The bigger the country, generally the more resources that you have. What drives the world? Next slide, Joseph. The economies. How big is your economy? What's the value of the goods and the services and everything that, all the business transactions, the income, the expenditures? I don't know what happened there. Well, the United States is by far the biggest economy in the world, $21 trillion a year. China's coming in at 14 trillion, Japan 5, Germany 4, India 2.8. Israel's number 35, $500 billion, $400 billion. Myanmar, 76 billion. Now we start to see why Myanmar really doesn't make the cut and why people care. Mexico is bigger, 1.3 trillion. Ukraine, 155 billion, smaller than Israel, but a lot bigger population. Number 35. Texas, 1.7 trillion. The economy of Texas is bigger than the economy of the country of Israel. Thinking about it from the carnal standpoint, it's not the size of the country, it's insignificant, 150. It's not the population, it's insignificant. It's number 100 out of 195. The economy, it's big, but it's number 35. From the carnal standpoint, from the human standpoint, why would you care more about Israel than Myanmar or North Korea or Argentina or any other country? Why? From the carnal standpoint, from the human standpoint, it doesn't make sense. There's no real explanation for it. From the human standpoint. Why? And that's where we've got to go. We've got to go to something that's outside of humans. It's outside of the carnal thinking, the carnal mind. It's got to be something greater, something bigger than that. And that's what it is. If we go to Genesis chapter 17, Genesis chapter 17, it started with a promise. It started with a covenant. 17:1, Genesis 17:1 says, when Abraham was 90 years old and 9, the Lord appeared to Abram and said unto him, I am the Almighty God, walk before me and be thou perfect. And I will make my covenant between me and thee, my covenant, my agreement, my contract, and will multiply thee exceedingly. And Abraham fell on his face, and God talked with him, saying, as for me, behold, my covenant is with thee, and thou shalt be a father of many nations. Neither shall thy name any more be called Abram, but thy name shall be Abraham. For a father of many nations I have made thee. And I will make thee exceedingly fruitful, and I will make nations of thee, and kings shall come out of thee. I will establish my covenant between me and thee, and thy seed after thee, and their generations, for an everlasting covenant, to be a God unto thee, and to thy seed after thee. It started with this agreement that God made with Abraham. It started with this covenant. God used Abraham, Isaac, his seed, Jacob, his seed. Jacob's name was later changed to what? Israel. He used that arrangement, that agreement, that covenant to introduce himself to mankind. His law, he revealed through them. His commandments, he revealed through them. The Messiah, the Savior, came through them. He used them to do that. He chose them. Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, and the descendants. So it started with that covenant, that agreement. Now we know from studying Jeremiah the last quarter that relationship's not always been solid, right? God had told them, well, let's turn to Deuteronomy chapter 4. He had told them, you keep my covenant, you keep my agreement, then, we'll be good. You'll be golden. Things won't happen to you that happen to other nations. Things won't occur to you that happen to other people. Everything's going to go well for you, but they couldn't do that. Deuteronomy chapter 4, verse 23 says, "Take heed unto yourselves, lest ye forget the covenant of the Lord your God, which he made with you, and make you a graven image or the likeness of anything which the Lord thy God hath forbidden thee. For the Lord thy God is a consuming fire, even a jealous God. When thou shalt beget children and children's children, and ye shall have remained long in the land, and shall corrupt yourselves, and make a graven image or the likeness of anything, and shall do evil in the sight of the Lord thy God, to provoke him to anger. I call heaven and earth to witness against you this day, that you shall utterly perish from off the land whereunto you go over Jordan to possess it. You shall not prolong your days upon it, but shall utterly be destroyed. And the Lord shall scatter you among the nations, and you shall be left few in number among the heathen, whether the Lord shall lead you." He made a covenant with them. He'd made an agreement with them. He revealed his law through them. He brought the Messiah to the world through them. But he also told them, you're not obedient, you'll be spread all over the earth. You'll be all over the place. Did that happen? Absolutely happened. Absolutely happened. They're in almost every country in the world. There's a significant population in the United States. There's a significant population in Europe and other countries. And it wasn't until 1948 until they had their own territory or land that was recognized and given back to them. So God had said, I'm going to scatter you all over. But then we see in Isaiah chapter 11 a promise. Isaiah 11, verse 11 says, and it shall come to pass in that day that the Lord shall set his hand again the second time to recover the remnant of his people which shall be left from Assyria, from Egypt, from Pathros, from Cush, from Elam, from Shinar, from Hamath, from the islands of the sea. And he shall set up an ensign for the nations, and shall assemble the outcasts of Israel, and gather together the dispersed of Judah from the four current corners of the earth. So that covenant, that agreement that started with Abraham, passed on to Isaac, passed on to Jacob, Israel, that promise that they would be dispersed happened, but there's a promise that they will be regathered once again. I don't know what it was like in 1948 when the news came that the boundaries of Israel had been established and they were recognized as a nation, they were recognized as a country. I don't know what that, to me it would have been impressive to witness and be alive during that time, because that is one big step in what is occurring in this prophecy of them to be regathered and them to be re-brought back to their homeland. It was a huge event. Then we start to get to Zechariah chapter 12. Zechariah chapter 12, verse 3. Well, let's go back to verse 1. The burden of the word of the Lord of Israel, saith the Lord, which stretcheth forth the heavens, and layeth the foundation of the earth, and formeth the spirit of man within him. Behold, I will make Jerusalem a cup of trembling unto all the people round about, when they shall be in the siege both against Judah and against Jerusalem. And in that day will I make Jerusalem a burdensome stone for all people. All that burden themselves with it shall be cut in pieces, though all the people of the earth be gathered together against it. In that day, saith the Lord, I will smite every horse with astonishment, and his rider with madness. I will open my eyes upon the house of Judah, and will smite every horse of the people with blindness. And then it goes on, in that day, in that day, in that day. That phrase keeps happening over and over again. But what is going to eventually happen here to Jerusalem? What is going to happen to Israel? Last part of verse 3. All of the people of the earth be gathered together against it. God had made this covenant. He made this promise to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. We saw the blessings that came from that selection of those people. For us today, as Gentiles being grafted in, having the opportunity to know who God is, to understand God's law, to understand His Son and His plan of salvation through the Messiah. He dispersed them, physically dispersed them because of their disobedience. He will regather them. That has started, it's begun. And eventually, all nations are going to come against them. Chapter 14, verse 2. For I will gather all nations against Jerusalem to battle, and the city shall be taken, the houses rifled, and the women ravished, and half the city shall go forth into captivity, and the residue of the people shall not be cut off from the city. Then shall the Lord go forth and fight against those nations as when He fought in the day of battle. And then it goes on to talk about when the Lord's feet touched the Mount of Olives. And all these things, verse 9, and the Lord shall be king over all the earth. In that day shall there be one Lord, and His name one. God is going, all nations, all militaries, all people are going to come against Israel. And then after all this, He's going to restore Israel and His relationship with them, and they're going to recognize the Savior. They're going to recognize the Lord Jesus Christ. They're going to accept Him. But until then, it's going to be a lot of trouble. Until then, there's going to be a lot of things going on. Until then, we're going to see all these nations line up against Israel. Why? Why don't all nations just do like Iraq did? How come all nations just aren't going into Israel, putting an end to all this, invading, taking over? God uses men, He uses women, He uses leaders of nations, just like He used Nebuchadnezzar in Babylon with his children, to invade them, to take them captive, to take them back to Babylon. Just like He had the Medo-Persian Empire overthrow them, just like the Greek Empire overthrew them, the Roman Empire overthrew them. He uses people, He uses nations, He uses countries, militaries, powers. Why don't people just go take Israel over? It's small, the population's not that big, and at the end of the day, the economy, it's big, but it's not in the top 5, it's not in the top 10, it's not in the top 25. Who is God using? Who is God using to protect Israel? Somebody whispering something. What's that? Right now, it's the United States. Right now, it's the U.S. The last few years, it's been the U.S. The conversations that I'm sure that were ongoing leading up to President Biden's visit there were conversations with Iran, were conversations with Iraq, were conversations with Saudi Arabia, conversations with United Arab Emirates, all those countries around there, Syria, Lebanon, everybody else. I'm sure those conversations were like, you stay out of this. You stay out of this. And to show that we're serious, what are we going to do? We waited a year before we sent the president into Ukraine, but within 11 days, the President of the United States is going to Jerusalem, to Israel, to meet with the leaders, to show what? That we're with them, that we're going to defend them, that we're going to take care of them, that we're going to be there. Don't try any funny business. Let them work out this situation with Hamas. Let them work this out. Stay out of it. Stay out of it. But there are shadows. There are shadows of turning. There are indications that I see that it's not always going to be this way. I mean, first of all, we have the prophecies that all nations are going to come against Israel. The militaries, they're all going to line up there. Everybody's going to be interested in this 150th size country, 100th population, 35th economy in the world. Everybody's going to be all up in arms about them. But I'm seeing signs, I'm seeing the indications that the United States is going to begin at some point to change its path, to change its perspective, to change its opinion, to change its status. We've got members of the U.S. House of Representatives that are calling for the United States to not defend Israel, to not support Israel, but instead to support the Palestinians, who are not the same as Hamas, but nevertheless, we've got calls in the U.S. House and Senate for that. I saw a survey this week that said 40% of people believe that Hamas is justified in their terroristic actions. 40%. That's not too far from being what? Half. When you get to a situation where you have half the country believing one thing and half the country believing another thing, what do you have? The current situation that we have when it comes to Democrats and Republicans, right? You don't have agreement. You don't have alignment. When 80% of the country believes something, it's okay for a politician to go up and do things that are in support of that. When it gets to be 20, when it gets to be 40%, when it gets to be 50%, it's a whole lot more difficult. So I'm seeing the shadows of turning. I'm seeing a lot of conversation about the just treatment of the Palestinians, the human rights violations that Israel is committing, like with the hospital bombing that Hamas blamed on Israel, and Israel said, that's not us, that's a bad missile from Hamas. But those all begin to sway public opinion. They all begin to sway people's thoughts and opinions about whether we should be involved as a nation. I see shadows of the public opinion beginning to turn against Israel. Once that gains momentum, once that gains critical mass, once that reaches the highest levels to where the United States can say or will say, we can no longer defend them, we're not going to be any longer engaged with them, then that's going to open the door. It's going to open the door for everybody to go, whoosh, now we want a piece of the action. Now we want a piece of the action. And the question again becomes, why? Because again, from the carnal standpoint, from the human standpoint, it's insignificant. It all comes down to the why is because God. Because His Word is true. His Scriptures are true. I mean, it just defies logic to think that about a country that size could play such an important role in world affairs. But it does. We go back and we look at that list, and if we actually were to go to look at the countries that population-wise and economic-wise and size-wise were in the same neighborhood of the size of Israel, some of those countries we wouldn't even recognize their names because we don't talk about them. We don't hear about them. We don't discuss them. So from the human standpoint, the carnal standpoint, There's really no solid explanation. You've got to believe that there's something higher that's driving this, and it's God. He's laid the blueprint down, and it's been executing over the last couple thousand years. It's been coming to fruition slowly and slowly and slowly. Either are the current events that are there right now, are we on the precipice of tomorrow something bigger happening? Tomorrow will the U.S. say, you know what, we changed our mind, we're out, and everybody else invades and goes in and starts all this? I don't think so, but I don't know so. I don't think so, but I don't know so. Just like Israel becoming a nation in 1948 was a step in the direction, just like the Holocaust was a step in the direction, just like the regathering of Israel is a step in the direction, I see this current situation as a step in the direction. It's not doctrine, it's just Brother Tim's opinion. But it is a part of the setting of the stage and the following of the blueprint that God laid out. He laid it all out. Human logic doesn't really explain it. Human logic doesn't really rationalize it based on who and what they are. So I've got to go to, look, this is just evidence. This is just further evidence that God is true, that God is right, that God is real, and what He has said is going to happen, has been happening, and it will happen. Things are going to get a lot worse for Israel. Things are going to get a lot more difficult and challenging until Big Brother, in this case, Big Brother is United States, says, yeah, we're kind of done with this, and steps back, and then the door's going to be open. God will make the choice, He'll make the decision on when that's going to happen, when that's going to occur, but again, when I think about this just from the perspective of what makes sense, it's like it really doesn't make sense from a human standpoint. The only way I can see it making sense is with what the Scriptures have told us, what the Scriptures have taught us. And it's like when these kinds of, to me, when these kinds of big picture things are accurate and real, and we can see them clearly playing out from what the Scriptures had said, just like when I've told you about, when I was first getting serious about the Bible and everything, and we didn't have the internet and all that, and I was spending time in the library studying history books about world empires and world powers and world militaries, and there it was, Babylonian, Medo-Persian, Greek, Roman, the whole thing laying right out. I was like, wow, that's powerful. And to me, what is happening and what is going on today, it's a step, and it's powerful. And to me, it's just tangible evidence that God is real. It's tangible evidence that His Scriptures are real. It's tangible evidence to me that things are going to continue on until He decides it's done, just like He said in the Scriptures. So to me, it's just a moment for us to reflect on the reality and the evidence of God. It's an opportunity for us just to kind of think about it, to contemplate it, and think about how real He is and how true He is and how accurate His Scriptures are. So just something for us to think about, brothers and sisters. Didn't want to let this opportunity, if you will, kind of slide by us, but to kind of note it for what it is and have a discussion about that.